I've been helping people identify and understand the grieving process for over 20 years. It dawned on me today that the spiritual awakening process is very much mimicking the grieving process, because after all, we are losing or having parts of us die off. The first phase in the grief journey is shock and denial. People usually are stunned, go into a phase of denial and confusion when they first find out about the loss of a loved one. But it can also relate to other losses in life, and in general, we go through a grieving process anytime there's a change. The spiritual awakening journey kind of generally hits people like a ton of bricks. So this shock and denial and confusion is exactly what people who I have communicated with experienced at the beginning of their spiritual awakening journey, and this is how I felt too. Very lost, didn't understand what was going on. And the first task in the grief journey is accepting the loss as real, believing that it has actually happened. So in the spiritual awakening journey, it's the same thing. We're trying to understand what is going on because we are questioning everything that we have ever known. This can put us into that dark night of the soul, also referred to as ego death, where every aspect comes into question and we feel like we are losing control. The next phase of the grief journey is feeling all of the feelings. So when we're experiencing grief and when we're going through this spiritual awakening, we experience the confusion and sadness and depression, as well as hopelessness and helplessness and resentment and anger and bitterness. This is generally the longest part of the grief journey, which is a free-flowing journey because we can make our way through some different phases and then bounce right back to the beginning and re-experience that shock and denial and confusion. It's the same thing with the spiritual awakening process. We can have some relief and have some answers and start to feel better and then bounce right back to that state of confusion and loneliness and depression. When we're going through all of these intense emotions and we're just feeling all of the feelings, we are also having different physical reactions and different emotional reactions, different spiritual reactions, and we can even be forgetful, or we can feel like our brains are scattered and we're just kind of walking around like zombies, just going through the motions, while there is this deep transformation that's taking place underneath. The next phase in the grieving process generally revolves around reconciling the loss. We start to have some understanding of maybe reasons why this had to happen, some lessons that we needed to learn because of it, and starting to have some relief and hope that things are going to be better, that we're going to make it out of this dark, very tumultuous, exacerbated, emotional experience. And it's the same for the spiritual awakening process. The next phase is opportunities. When you start to make it out of that dark place, you start seeing opportunities for growth, and then we start having expansion. We're starting to see that we have the availability to have new roles. We're starting to accept that, and we're starting to have new experiences, and we're open to new relationships in how we relate to people. This is true in both the grieving process and in the spiritual awakening journey, because as we grow and heal, we're becoming different versions of ourselves, and we then relate to new people and decide that things that were working in our lives before that point just don't seem to be a fit anymore. And with the spiritual awakening process, we truly are grieving the loss of everything we've ever known. Our identities, our beliefs, our old selves are dying off, our old patterns are dying off. So we do experience a lot of loss, and that's why it's such an intense process. So just as with the grieving process, the spiritual awakening process is a free-flowing experience that kind of has some ups and downs, some really deep, intense changes that are taking place, and then we emerge as this new person, this new version of ourselves that is ready to face the world again. With both situations, the grieving journey and the spiritual awakening journey, we can feel like no one really gets what we're going through or understands, and so it's difficult for us to reach out. This is when we really go internally, kind of in that hermit mode, and we're just ultimately taking care of ourselves, and it's okay. People can become scared for us because they don't know what's going on and they may see us isolating, but it really is a necessary part of the process. So just remember, whether you're going through the grieving journey or the spiritual awakening journey, which really encompasses both, just be patient with yourself, have compassion and love and kindness for yourself. And when you get to reaching towards the end of that journey, you'll have and experience more of a state of calmness and peace, and be able to start re-experiencing joy.